Hey everyone.
Welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Are you guys scared from the markets or are you guys excited for more buying opportunities? How are you doing, Bertrand?
I'm great. Can't complain. Paying attention to everything. There's a lot to talk about. We can take this conversation any direction we'd like, really.
Yeah, it has been an interesting week, and I hope you guys have been watching our previous live streamings because somehow we predicted many of the market movements. I think we provided with great strategies focusing on utility assets, which are the best performing assets this bull run. But as we speak, there is a market meltdown that's happening. And I think it's very interesting that the involvement of mainstream politicians such as Donald Trump happened exactly timed with the market top. So we had the president of the United States joining a crypto event, the Bitcoin convention. You guys remember when we went live and we were very suspicious on why the president was getting involved when Bitcoin was above $100,000? That was timely convenient, right? I really think that they were seeking all the possible liquidity because you didn't see the politicians and the mainstream media telling you to buy BTC at $30,000 or at $40,000 back there. They would tell you that crypto is a scam. And this narrative has kind of made a 360 turn in which I just have to tell you that the liquidity is very low. And whenever I saw on the television that there was a massive campaign pro Bitcoin, I started to get concerned. In fact, I reduced my positions in crypto. I sticked only to the fundamentals. I actually dumped all of my ERC20 coins. You guys, if you follow me on X, how many times I was selling my KNT to buy XLM, selling my Matic, for example, to buy on the ISO 20022 coins, which, by the way, are holding very well. Right now, we have XRP is still above $2, in my opinion, holding very strongly. Because if we start to think, when XRP was 50 cents, Bitcoin was around 75, $80,000. Right now, BTC is $80,000 and XRP is still above $2. So that should tell you that there has been a major change on the way that markets are moving. And in this live streaming, I really want to emphasize how we should not look to the previous cycles to make predictions on 2025 bull run, if we can call that a bull run, and why 99% of TA was 100% wrong. Are you guys watching TA videos sometimes? Well, I do only out of curiosity because I don't follow what they say. I actually prefer to look what central banks are doing. I like Versan said this sentence very impactful that the central banks are my TA. And if you see what TA analysts are doing, they are always giving you both scenarios in a very confusing way, in which if their analysis don't play out, they can just switch the narrative and say something to turn it out and try to fit their narrative. So first I want to hear Versan thoughts on this dip, and then we're going to have a bit of a more technical conversation, but it's not about TA. It's going to be a different type of technical analysis that I'm going to put for you guys so that you can really understand what's happening.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks everyone for tuning in, just supporting the channel, The Turning Point. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Edo, my dear friend. So I want to be realistic about the situation. And I think most technical analysts are getting it wrong, and they're not accurately explaining what's actually happening in the markets. And the reality is simple. It's all about the bond market, and that's lending, borrowing and lending, credit and debt mechanism. So, I mean, with everything we see happening, I would say if you look at the bond market, there's a lot of pressure on the bonds, and that is in turn putting pressure on central banks. And because of that, that's, by the way, a whole rabbit hole of itself, but it's directly tied to the volatility that we're witnessing in the markets. And it's because the bond markets are under stress that central banks are actually struggling to issue new debt, despite the fact that they've been doing this for decades and decades. It's a mechanism they rely on to prop up the economy, right? But what I find interesting is when there's pressure on the bond market, the U.S. is, first of all, continuing to downplay this narrative, but if you look at the BRICS nations, they're still offloading U.S. bonds, and that's accelerating dramatically. So it's not speculation; it's a clear signal that confidence in the U.S. debt, treasury market is eroding. And here's why this matters. And I'm trying to tie this all in together, because when central banks can't issue new debt as easily as they once did because there's no confidence anymore, it puts strains on the entire system. And that's when banks and financial institutions start to tighten their lending standards. And when lending slows down, what happens? Liquidity starts rushing for the exit. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Not to mention that the dollar liquidity is plunging as well, which is only amplifying and accelerating the stress that we see across markets. And this is why I've been telling people to hold like cash for a while on hand, because I think major dips are coming. And those who are prepared are going to be able to capitalize the best. And yes, M2 money supply and velocity are still increasing, but you have to understand that there's a 3 to 6 month lag effect before that actually translates into what you see in the markets as returns. So a bull cycle, I still think, is coming, Edo, but I think what we're seeing right now is part of the larger shakeout. And final thoughts, this is really what most people are missing, the real economic crisis that is still brewing beneath the surface, in my opinion. The regional banking crisis is not over. The aftermath of the lockdowns are still taking effect. We see economic shifts on the brink, and I'm not just saying this shit out my, pulling this out of my ass. The information is there. It's just people don't understand how these shifts are still playing out. And the commercial real estate market is a bubble. We're seeing businesses continue to downsize. Offices are sitting at empty. Defaults are rising. Borrowing is rising. So think about it. It's like the government's inefficiencies is only accelerating the problem. Now, I understand Trump is bringing in this golden age, but as a result of that, we're going to see a lot of pain and suffering that comes along with it. More layoffs. That means fewer businesses are maintaining office space. So I'm just trying to bridge everything, Edo, for the audience, because they don't realize that technical analyst guys are getting it wrong indeed. And then they can just shift the narrative, like you said, and they're missing the bigger picture. That's my point. So I don't lose sleep over any of this because I understand how these markets work, but I've detached my emotions. I hold cash. I own gold, silver, things of that nature. And we're seeing a surge in that as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, great insights, Persan. I totally agree with you that we're going to have a bull run, but I think we have to make a distinction between the previous definition of a bull run and what's going to be the next bull run like. So first, I have mentioned that we should not look for the previous cycles. And last week, I have pulled exactly this chart, and I ask you to have patience, especially the audience, if you have watched last week's streaming, but I have to repeat it because I think it's extremely important. And right here we had a BTC chart, and you can see all the previous cycles. So have a look at the liquidity in 2014, 16, 18, 19, and have a look at the liquidity now. So basically, that's up to a 500% decrease. So there's around 5 times less liquidity on the markets. And that's why we are watching so much price manipulation and volatility. So that being said, this cycle is different for one reason. Most of the OG coins are sitting below bear market prices, and most of the bullish narratives are already priced in. And I ask you, what have this done for most of the cryptocurrencies? We really didn't see an increase for Ethereum. Ethereum is sitting at the same levels, actually below bear market levels. Or have a look at most of the ERC20 tokens, which stands for the coins built on top of Ethereum. Well, if you go look at the top 100% coins by market cap, I would argue that it's a vast minority of coins that had a major run. And we're talking about exactly the coins that we always mention. I'm talking about XRP, XLM, Velo, SHX, HBAR. What else I am missing here? Well, the coins that we have mentioned, they are all utility tokens. Most of them, they are not speculative assets like the majority of cryptocurrencies out there. So for the first time in history, we had a bull run that was primarily led by utility and fundamental assets. And the old technologies and the meme coins and all of these speculative assets, I don't think there will be ever liquidity to recover most charts, because let's analyze, we had all the inflow of ETFs on the previous months that somehow kicked the beginning of the bull run. We had the president of the United States launching meme coins, you could argue that that would be something bullish for the crypto markets. You had the meeting on the White House with the crypto summit on the White House. What else I am missing here? We had so many major news that you would expect, according to the mainstream experts, that by now Bitcoin would be trading above $500,000, right? But guess what? All the narratives are already priced in. Now, stop to think for a second. If everything has happened, but yet we have no liquidity, and we have coins like Ethereum, which you look at the chart and you say, oh my God, that thing is going perhaps to below $1,000. So the situation is not good for the overall markets, yet the situation is good for the utility coins. And I think more and more we are coming to the turning point where there will be a separation on what is a speculative asset and what is something that has utility on the real world. And there will be the time that these people that are holding coins like Ethereum, they will be left behind, and there will be so much FOMO of people trying to get in assets like XRP, that I really see that a high percentage of Ethereum's market cap, for example, can start to flow towards the XRP ecosystem. And we also have to talk about the mentality of investors.
Yeah.
I do think that the involvement of Donald Trump on the markets didn't have a positive impact. I don't think the fact that he launched meme coins was something positive for the industry, because what ended up happening is that all the meme coins, especially on Solana, they further drained the liquidity. So if you see there on the chart, there is already very low liquidity. And most importantly, it has contributed for a change on the mindset of investors. Now people are chasing ways to farm each other, and they want to buy the next meme coin, whether it's from the president of Argentina, United States, or crypto celebrities. Everyone's farming each other, and there's no moral values anymore to this market, because they are rug pulling people and they are not even caring about it. And when you have presidents doing so, you are inspiring other artists, celebrities to do the same. And that has caused a very negative impact for the ecosystem. And now even investors, they don't think long term anymore. Everyone wants to make money easy and fast, but it's becoming increasingly difficult for the fact that now meme coins, for example, or new projects, they are being launched, and perhaps 30 seconds after the launch, it drops 99%. So even the concept of being early has changed. Back on the previous cycle, to be early, perhaps you needed to be on the first week of the project, maybe in the first year of development. Right now, you have an infinity of coins, which an endless supply that is controlled by selected individuals, and people are just chasing the next pump every time. And this is affecting the long-term mentality. Nobody wants to hold anymore because they are conditioned to wait the dump, which happens most of the times, 99%, and they are not paying attention. I'm not talking to our audience, I'm talking to the majority of investors.
Yeah.
They are paying attention to the wrong projects. What they have been hyping on these last months: Solana with the hype, Ethereum, which didn't perform at all, Bitcoin, which the mainstream media told them to buy BTC at 110. Meanwhile, all the other coins, the XRPs, the Velos, the SHXs, the HBARs, are the ones that not only had the best performance, but are the ones that are holding the line right now. So there has been it's a new type of bull run. It has been a different market, and the best thing you can do is adapt. Because if you're gonna take decisions based on the previous cycles, you're gonna end up like 99% of people who were liquidated. They were waiting to go for $10,000, and guess what? Never happened.
Mm-hmm. Can I answer a question from Truth Seeker 1111? Persona, are XOM and Velo still on your list? Yes, they are. Thoughts on Ondo? I do think some of these technologies do have their use cases, but it's going to be very complementary to the very infrastructure that we're talking about here. And if you look at every digital trace, it always goes back to RippleNet, and XRP. So yeah, but what you were saying, Edo, I totally agree with you. I think, the future of digital money, it's all about compliance. It's all about regulation. And some people put some good comments in here. Meme coins are a distraction from the truth, from David. Absolutely correct. And with regulations, I know it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's going to bring the legitimacy of this technology. And a lot of these regulations do align with the frameworks that are being developed. Again, I feel repetitive, but Basel III regulations, the International Monetary Fund guidelines, and of course, the ISO compliance standards for blockchain protocols. And it means pretty much the financial system that is evolving is going to evolve into a more structured phase. So it's not about speculative assets. It's about cryptocurrencies like XRP, XLM becoming the backbone of the global financial reset. We're in the early stages of all this. And, hence there's an interesting document you posted this morning, Edo, and it aligns perfectly with what I reported in 2022 when I said Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England, was already talking about the need for a settlement system and cross-border payments. We covered this extensively even together, and we do have videos of this on the X account detailing exactly how the shift was being planned, and all those discussions from years ago are now beginning to resurface, and it's all converging towards that one turning point, that moment, no pun intended. But the document that you put out there, Edo, it described the need for a more synchronized settlement payment protocols, and I want everyone to understand that this is XRP, what they're referring to. And I don't care how people try to spin it, and they've been spinning it, okay? But XRP is a cross-border remittance protocol, yet you still have people arguing, saying, no, that's Ripple. Well, for the naysayers out there and those who are new to the space trying to lecture us about how this is actually happening, we've been covering this for years. Let's clarify that Ripple is a private company in the financial technology sector. That's fintech. They sell financial technology to central banks, governments, and financial institutions. That technology is called RippleNet. RippleNet is the distributed ledger technology, which is what the central banks and the financial institutions are actually investing in. The new global system, banking system, is built on RippleNet. That's the underlying infrastructure I was talking about. And that's where XRP comes in, because RippleNet is integrating with the existing financial rails that we already have. And that's your foundation for that new system, the transition, the bridge, whatever you want to call it. And that's what creates the value for XRP. It enables those institutions to move the value amongst each other, et cetera, et cetera. It's the liquidity bridge that enables that value transfer. So every digital trace is going back to XRP. And that's why we've been emphasizing it for years. The future of digital money is all about freaking compliance, okay? Meme coins, listen, I understand some people see potential in meme coins, but the problem is there's not enough liquidity, like you mentioned, Edo. My cousin, he made 1.7 million US dollars in a meme coin on the Ethereum network. And he couldn't even pull it out because liquidity wasn't there. So you may have the digital money, but it doesn't exist if there's no liquidity. And I worked for a day and a half trying to bridge this to the XRP ledger, but there's no interoperability. So we couldn't do it. So it's still stuck in there. And some of the people cashed out. And, Edo, how I feel about meme coins, I stay away from them. I don't trust them. I do see a lot of other opportunities in the sector, but it's going to be the regulatory status that actually sets the foundation first, and everything again is complementary, bridge to, et cetera, et cetera. And something we should talk about also is Bitcoin. Bitcoin, remember how strategic it was when it was brought into the market. Okay, it's a rabbit hole that goes so deep regarding Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's introduction was always strategic. Its origins even trace back to the National Security Agency, the Five Eyes intelligence agencies. People, again, don't realize how deep that rabbit hole goes. It was never about decentralization. It was never about financial freedom. The PayPal mafia had its involvement in it from the beginning. And when you start following the money, you start to realize it has connections to trafficking. It has connections to stablecoin manipulation, and some of the large-scale corruptions designed to siphon wealth, I would say, from retail investors. And that's really what Bitcoin is. It's nothing more than a mechanism to extract your wealth from naive investors who are sold a dream. That's the reality of the situation. And let me tell you something, if mainstream media and Trump even, if they're talking about Bitcoin and putting billions and billions of dollars in investment into marketing, let me tell you something, I'll be the first person to walk in a different direction, okay? Because that's how they lead you to the slaughterhouse. And we've already seen this with countless people losing everything in Bitcoin. Michael Saylor, is a corrupt son of a bitch. And I'm going to put that out there live. Somebody should make a tweet about that.
Love what you said, Versan. I think if you have at least 1% of your intuition, you should understand that Michael Saylor doesn't have the greatest intentions. Apparently, he's trying to make a new record on losing billions in one single day. So inevitably,
Possibly.
there will be a correction, which is already happening, but I really think there will be more than a correction for BTC. I really see a meltdown, and it's very suspicious how they have timed all the BTC mainstream propaganda for when the markets were above $100,000. They really needed liquidity. There was already low liquidity on the markets. And remember when the German government was trying to sell Bitcoins a couple of months ago? I think it was about $85,000. And they had, it was not even a large sum of BTC. I think it was a couple million Bitcoins. And every time they sent it to an exchange to try to sell it, there was not enough buy orders. So it took them about 10 days to finally get all the orders through. So that was already, for me, a major red flag. And looking for the volume, the chart, the situation was, I don't think most people were being transparent, because the people doing technical analysis, they were also ignoring the macro scenario, which is something that we always spoke about the credit card delinquencies. We have layoffs, we have massive inflation. I mean, you don't need to turn the television, you just go make the groceries and you're gonna find out how much the food is getting expensive, right? I don't know on your countries, but for what I see here in Europe, and I have been traveling to multiple countries in the past months, and everywhere I travel is the same. Everyone is complaining that the food is getting expensive, the services are getting expensive, the currencies are getting devaluated. And right now, perhaps the last change, the last glimpse of oxygen, let's say, for the overall markets. I'm not talking about the utility markets because they are not directly correlated with what I'm going to say, but let's say about BTC, which is artificially inflated by Tether. I think if we have an increase on the M2 money supply, but even that down the road has bad economical consequences. So unless they pull some move, like increasing the M2 money supply again, we're going to still continue to have a correction. And right now, we know that there are many things going on with the tariffs, which I don't really want to get specifically if it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but we can't deny that that has bad short-term consequences for the market. So I would even tell everyone to be very cautious while trading. I was telling Versan, when I join him on private, I'd say to him, I have so much adrenaline because I am a portion of my income comes from trading, but I don't recommend, honestly. I have a lot of experience on that, but most people, they will end up losing money on such a low volume environment when trading, because what I notice is that the trading boots are openly chasing your orders. So they come to execute your stop losses. That's manipulation. That's 100% market manipulation. So they're really trying to drain everyone. That's happening real time. And I have a video here that I want to share. I'm going to pull this on the screen. And so have you guys seen this one? The Christine Lagarde has come in public and said that the European Union is planning to launch a digital euro CBDC by October 2025. So basically in a couple of months from now. May I play this short clip, Versan, do you mind?
Of course, go ahead, please. Let me mute my...
I don't know if you can hear it, because I think it's the first time I share a video on the screen, so let's give a try.
On your second point, I tend to share your views. Nature doesn't like vacuum. And we started working on the digital euro way back. Actually, when I started my term 5.5 years ago. And I'm not claiming, parentality on the digital euro, because my colleague Benoît Cœuré had already committed a speech on this matter before I arrived. But I certainly carried on with that project, and subsequently Fabio Panetta on the board, and then Piero Cipollone who has replaced Fabio, have taken the lead together with a very, very good team, which is focused on accelerating the pace and hopefully campaigning enough with all the stakeholders, meaning European Parliament, meaning European Council, meaning European Commission, so that we can eventually, not put to bed, but put to reality this digital euro. The deadline for us is going to be October of 25, and we are getting ready for that deadline, but we will not be able to move unless the other parties, the stakeholders, as I call them, Commission, Council, and Parliament, actually complete the legislative process, without which we will not be able to move. And I think it is critically important. And it seems to the agnostic or the skeptics, it seems to be more relevant and more of an imperative now than ever before, both on the wholesale and on the retail level, both.
Oh. Fuck, man. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So see, I'm very good at unpacking these kind of speeches that they give. They try to hide the devil in the detail. Number one, she referred to wholesale CBDCs and retail CBDCs. That's that two-tier banking system I've been describing for a very long time. I have documents. I have proof of this from the Bank for International Settlements. On top of that, I'd like to emphasize again, and I've emphasized this for years alongside Edo and David and my brother, but the XRP and XLM have already been officially recognized since 2021 as a stable coin by the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, that's who Christine Lagarde used to be the managing director of, the Bank for International Settlements, even the United Nations recently endorsed it. Do you think this is by chance? Absolutely not. It's just people don't do their research. They ignore the facts. And these are the institutions who understand they need the bridge for a digital asset that combines, again, stability, liquidity, scalability in the evolving monetary system. And the thing is, gold, I always have to go back to gold. It's been the long foundation of value. Hence, central banks are buying gold like you wouldn't believe. Way before the pandemic, they're still pressing on the gas while suppressing the narrative overall. Now, we understand its physical nature limits the use in a digital economy, but we understand that the future is not physical, it's digital, right? And that's where stable coins come in. They offer the solution for liquidity, yet they still remain tied to either fiat or a one-to-one ratio with something physical along those lines. World Gold Council openly talked about this, again, emphasizing it. Now, that's where I think XRP stands apart from everything. It provides the stability of a stablecoin, the scarcity and the value preservation of gold, and the efficiency that is absolutely needed for all global transactions. And this is what makes XRP and gold, again, some of the most critical pillars in this transition to a digital financial institution. So, I mean, I'm not wrong, and I still stick to my guns. I believe that directly or indirectly, gold is going to be tied to the XRP through stable coins. All right. And, those stable coins derive its cross-border functionality. I mean, look at this stupid statement. See, XRP isn't a stable coin. Okay. I've repeatedly covered this many times. If a stable coin is issued on the XRP ledger, it derives its cross-border functionality, its liquidity, its bridge from the XRP itself. Does that make sense? This is what I'm talking about. You can't explain this stuff to people sometimes. It's a lot of new people coming into the space who absolutely have no idea what's going on. They're just jumping right into conclusions, okay? We've covered the differences between these things. We know Ripple and XRP are two different things. I'm over it. That's it. I mean, yeah, I can't go on, man. That's why I told you to hide the comments. I just can't read that stuff. It's just... It's not for everybody. I mean, it's very clear, Edo, that there are going to be winners and losers in this new evolving monetary system. And guess what? I'm going to say it again. I guarantee you there are going to be CBDCs. You're talking about 7 billion people out there falling into debt. This is the ninja generation. No income, no job, no assets. And when you have a few select people in the XRP community, idiots, some of them, in my opinion, who will come out and say that there's not going to be a CBDC, Trump ended it. Number one, Trump can end whatever he wants. He can say what he wants. He's a politician, okay? But they're still pushing for this stuff. There are new documents that were just released recently from the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub, still pushing for CBDCs. The BRICS nations are pushing for CBDCs. You got 7-point-something billion people out there who are buried again in debt, credit card delinquencies, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to keep going on. But you're telling me that a few people in the XRP community are speaking for the rest of the world, saying that there's not going to be a CBDC. I guarantee you there's going to be a CBDC, whether it's an orchestrated collapse or a very slow, gradual evolution of the monetary system. And you can call it a stablecoin, you can call it UBI. They essentially function the same way. RLUSD, I wrote a whole report on this. It is a CBDC. It is a CBDC. I don't care how you want to speak about it, but it's true. I mean, you do your research into this stuff. It's out there. So that's why everyone needs to be positioned also in physical assets. You know, I've emphasized this for a very long time. I mean, sorry, guys, I kind of lost my marbles. You know?
Whereas it has been an interesting weekend. When you were speaking, I was sharing some documents that they all point out that the European CBDC is going to be built on top of the XRP ledger. We have documents from the Central Bank of France. In the past, we already had Christine Lagarde herself praising Ripple. It's one of the selected few companies in which she has openly mentioned and has praised openly Ripple in one of her previous videos. So there is interesting connections. And yes, it's very unique that Donald Trump says there will not be CBDCs, but in the same time, he's going for dinner with the same company that is building the rail for CBDCs. Can you make that more obvious?
My God, you know, I want to say something else. I mean, when he had in the Oval Office Sam Altman from OpenAI, who has known contracts with CIA intelligence operations and Apple trying to embed this stuff into the new phone, all right, to learn everything they can about you. I'm telling you, this quantum financial system, some of these Q people are talking about, and those are the people who have been psy-up to the max. And I don't care how people say it. Again, it's the truth. I've spoken to people on and off record, military guys, finance guys, economists who are actually up to speed on this stuff, including my friend Andy Schechtman. And we've had a lot of discussions off record. Okay. Five Eyes Intelligencies, Martin Armstrong told me the largest intelligence operation went into the PSYOP. It's part of that Cloward Piven strategy. And guess what? These are the same people who had Sam Altman in there. These are the same people who are now creating the divide, the divide and conquer strategies against a whole Muslim religion. These are people you don't even know. We've been waging war across the whole planet and now turning what Gaza into a real estate development deal. I mean, like, guys, I don't know how deep this goes, and you can disguise it any way you want. I mean, that's really what they're good at. And it's funny because if you actually acknowledge what some of these people are doing, even Larry Olson was standing in the Oval Office about a new vaccine with AI. Okay. I mean, it's crazy. Larry Olson has contracts with the CIA, Central Intelligence Operation. The whole Doge thing, for instance, Department of Government Efficiency, is about exposing corruption, but corruption has always been in plain sight for those who can see. And I can go even deeper into this stuff. All right. By the way, the Doge Department of Government Efficiency is going to accelerate the crash of regional banks into the banking crisis. And I'll tell you why. It's because now they're firing more and more people, despite the fact that more people have already been laid off since the pandemic. And that goes into the whole COVID lockdown scenario. It created the economic crisis that we haven't seen yet. Because people are not working from their offices anymore, they're going to start defaulting on all these buildings all over the country, government buildings too. And the government can't even sustain its own debt. So the ironic twist to all this about the whole bull market we talked about earlier, they're still going to print more money. And this is something my brother talks a lot about. They're going to print money, guys. So you just got to be at the right place at the right time. You know, I mean, I can go on and on about this stuff. It's all interconnected. I mean, the rabbit hole goes deep. And the problem with this rabbit hole, Edo, and you know this, you open one rabbit hole, it opens about 5 more doors. You open those 5 doors, you keep going deeper and deeper, and then you circle back to yourself and you start to realize, like, what is the meaning of all this, right? The forbidden fruit, the knowledge that we seek. The truth, the answer is inside of us. It's in our heart, you know? How the hell are you going to build and make America great again when the foundation is fucked up to begin with? That's the people. Governments are an aggregate of the people. The war that we're all arguing about here is a spiritual one. That's really what's going on here. So money is going to only the digital landscape. It can free us or enslave us. It really could. But we have to be mindful of, you know, the dangers that kind of come with all this. It's crazy, man. So.
Yeah, we have Europe advancing very fast with the CBDC. They just say they're October is the deadline, and by November, ISO 20022 is going to be implemented. Someone even gave this reminder on the comments. So things are very strategically aligned. I think the UK is also going to see a CBDC. I shared on the screen a couple of minutes ago the president of the Bank of America, sorry, Bank of America, no, Bank of England. I used it to watch some of the parliament sessions, and they were discussing CBDCs, and he was asked if England would to see a CBDC, and he said that the answer was more likely than not. So he gave, I think, a 6 or a 7 out of 10. That's also related with the document you mentioned before, the Bank of England proof of concept that has tested on the XRP ledger. We have so many connections between the Bank of England and XRP. And I think more and more we are getting the confirmations that the new financial system is going to run on multiple blockchain layers, rails. One of them is also going to be Stellar. You see there the token Stellar for CBDCs. Versan, I think we lost him. Let's give him some minutes. Let me try to add him back here just a second, guys. Well, we lost Versan, but meanwhile, I really see that I'm confused about the deadline on the United States, because apparently the US is behind Europe and England on regards to the CBDC, which I think is a great thing if you are from the United States. But ultimately, in my opinion, I don't really see a way out. Perhaps Donald Trump is the one that's going to bring CBDCs forward, but because Joe Biden, I don't think the Republicans would take it from someone that they couldn't trust. So I'm getting a bit distracted here, guys, because I'm trying to add Versan back. So give me a few seconds. Let me see what's going on. Meanwhile, the markets are still tanking here. We have BTC at 78,000, and I think it's going lower. So let me know in the comments if you think we're going to drop lower, or if you think this is the local bottom. In my opinion, the next key level is Bitcoin to 72,000. I think that's very possible. And just yesterday, I was telling people that I had not been buying XRP. I mean, I bought yesterday for the last time, but I had set some strategic buy orders, one at $1.95, one at $1.85. I think there can be a flash crash to those levels. So if you're looking for some buy orders, that's not a financial advice. I'm just sharing my strategy. And since we lost Versan, I can also, well, I am improvising here. Let's see if he's texting me something. Oh, that's why I didn't put this live on X. So let me fix this. Having some technical issues, guys, so please give me a few minutes to see what's happening with Versan and why is this not streaming to my X account. Anyways, yesterday I came back from Cyprus and I was investigating some ways to cash out crypto tax-free. So if you are European or people from Australia, I know there's a lot of taxations there. Italy, in my case, I am from Italy. I know they have been trying to increase for over 40% on capital gains on your crypto. So I am, yes, someone is saying that X has crashed. I think that's also very suspicious that X is crashing simultaneously when the markets are crashing, because a lot of people take their decisions based on what's being published on X, and right now X is down apparently.
Hey, sorry about
that. No worries, Versan. You know,
from everything.
Sorry. Apparently X is down. You know, someone is telling me that X is down, and we have not been able to stream this to X. You know.
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, man. And I was telling them how suspicious it is that X goes down in the same day that there's a major crash in the markets, when most investors, they take decisions based on the analysis that are put out on X. So that's also very suspicious, you know?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
No worries. I was telling them about my trip to Cyprus and how I was planning to cash out and organizing everything so I can cash out there without taxation, you know. And also I gave them some buy orders for XRP in case it drops lower, so people have the buy orders set. I don't know what you want to discuss, Nat. Unfortunately, we couldn't stream this to Wix, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, someone said my audio is weird. Can I get one more confirmation, please, from everyone? Can they hear me okay?
I can hear you, man.
Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry about this, guys. Okay, yeah, my mic is connected. My apologies. What I was gonna say is, it's so weird. Even like X was down all morning. Did everyone else experience the same thing? Just curious.
Yeah, I got X down in Europe, and since now it's not working properly, I couldn't even connect the StreamYard. It says here it has lost access to my X account.
Strange. But it's one thing I did notice. I called my brother to talk to him about it. I said, Indel, are you having issues with X? He confirmed the same thing he was. And one thing that did catch my attention, and this may sound a bit crazy, but it was an interview between Alex Jones and Dr. Stephen Greer. Do you guys know who that is? Anyways, it's a whole different rabbit hole I'm not going to get into right now, but it was getting a lot of mainstream attention.
So look, some people say Elon Musk confirmed a massive cyber attack on X. So yeah, there might be some underlying narrative about the cyber attacks. We all know that cyber attacks were something expectable in these times. So yeah, keep your crypto out of exchanges. That's the first thing I can tell you.
Good point. Yeah. But you're right. The timing was interesting because, what was happening with Bitcoin and the broader market meltdown at the same time. So it's possible that the timing, being suspicious, because there are a lot of investigative journalists on X who are really good at actually exposing the narratives that we see happening in the world. So it's very possible. It's not far-fetched what I'm saying is to think that certain narratives weren't meant to gain traction today. And I'm just really know it, but it's just something to think about.
Right now, this is getting interesting. Wait, I'm trying to pull out. Give me a second here. I'm trying to pull out the XRP chart. Trading view. But anyways, I don't know which topic you want to talk next. We have still 20 minutes of.
This is why I always tell people, it's like we can take these conversations in any direction you like. But what I find interesting, it's like the fact that people you have to detach your emotions from the XRP and the volatility that you see over there. I get a lot of messages. People are saying, oh yeah, well, why is XRP still at $2, right? There's so much that goes into that alone, that question in of itself. But, market cap, those things, they really don't matter for an asset class that is still considered to be new, even though it's been around for a while. But, remember, regulations are the most critical thing for the space. The future of digital assets, again, is compliance regulation. So until these things are fully regulated and recognized by the mainstream, you're not going to have institutional use case, even though the escrow is there. And it's kind of, the mechanism behind the escrow is very interesting. We saw a lot of XRP being moved, despite the fact the price wasn't even moving. You see what I mean? They've been manipulating this whole space. You know that. They got nodes on the XRP ledger. I don't know if the SEC is being investigated right now. The new crypto czar, he's pro Ripple, he's pro XRP. When they conclude that lawsuit, that may happen in 2025. Who knows? It really doesn't matter. It's all theater. But when the institutions begin to recognize this stuff and there are regulations in place, there are going to be barriers between investors and these institutional digital assets. Basically, you have to be an accredited investor to buy this stuff. You're not going to be able to buy this stuff. It may be affordable, but XRP was always designed for infinite scalability, and it's going to happen at a time that they're choosing. That's why I don't listen to technical analyst guys in the crypto markets. The whole freaking thing is rigged. So let's be realistic about it. There's a time.
Something that I wanted to ask your opinion, Versan, I think we didn't speak about that, is that apparently Trump has changed the narrative because everyone was expecting that the US government would buy cryptos to add on the digital stockpile and on the strategic reserve. And then the narrative has changed, and it's very interesting because of course they use the speculation to manipulate the markets. But the question is, do you think that they already acquired XRP back there? Let's say the escrowed XRP.
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
I have documents.
because I'm just trying to put this together. So basically, they are saying we're not going to buy Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc., etc. But in the same time, there is only one digital asset that is fully regulated, which they could have already acquired in the past, and that started back in 2019. And we all know that XRP is not a security. And now they are telling us, no, we're not going to buy digital assets. But what if they already bought XRP under NDA or OTC deals? That's what my speculation. Do you think that's a possibility?
Of course. I mean, XRP is directly tied to its intended purpose. That's it. It's not speculation. You know, it's the reality of its design, of how it's supposed to be implemented, functioning. All of this was done long ago. I really believe that. Whatever mainstream is saying, and mainstream, I hate to say this, and I'm with all due respect to the Trump supporters out there, and that's fine. I'm a political atheist. I don't care about both sides. I just follow the money and the facts. And the thing is, when Trump gets on camera and says something, those who actually know how to watch this stuff and interpret like the meaning behind certain things, and I mean, you can watch somebody on television talk about something, and you can see what they're actually indicating or what they're saying. It's usually misdirection. So, you know, I think all of this was said and done long ago. There's a lot of theater in this space. There's still theater in the mainstream news. There's theater even with the on X. You could see it. People are resurfacing old truths that are fact, and there's going to be a time and place for all of this. I think this was all done long ago. I really can. I'm not trying to go down the rabbit hole. It ties into it, but the future is gold in some way, form, or fashion, and having gold as that legitimate, stable value asset, strategic reserve asset. And this is why central banks all over the world, including BRICS nations, are still buying gold, and they're downplaying it with digital money. Come on. And if you look at that, gold is going to be the strategic reserve asset, and that digital representation is the distributed ledger technology. That's RippleNet. So there's going to be some relation there through the stable coins. I think, again, to answer your question, I know I go on and on about this stuff, but this was done long ago. What we're watching, like for people like us who do the research and a lot of the people in this community, I'm not kidding. It's like watching a movie. It really is. And, you know, you're just light years ahead. You're just waiting. And for me, it's a waiting game. I mean, I figured a lot of the stuff out in 2022. That's when I was solidified in my confirmation and confidence and about how this was all being staged and played out. So yes, to answer your question, it's crazy.
Yeah, and as we speak here, we have XRP at $2. That's quite a painful moment to watch the chart, but we are all on this together. And just to clarify, guys, I am absolutely not concerned, especially if we zoom out the chart. I mean, just a couple of months ago, we were trading at 50 cents. So we're still up 400%. And I would be concerned if I had bought Bitcoin at $110,000 when Michael Saylor was screaming on the television for everyone to get all in on Bitcoin. So that would be something concerned. But what we are watching right now is that utility assets are going to be the ones that are going to survive. I really think that Brett Garlinghouse prediction was a prophecy. Remember when he said that 99.9% of cryptos would go to zero? Well, he knew something. I mean, he's not a prophet, but you can be sure that to be on his position, you really have access to certain informations. And the fact that there is a meltdown happening right now and XRP is still above $2, despite the fact that Bitcoin is melting down in this moment, I think that should tell you a lot. And I will not be concerned about the price fluctuations on the long term. I think if you hold utility assets, we just having more and more confirmations that we are on the right path. And honestly, I had a call with Versan a couple of days ago, and I think we both came to the same conclusion. We were just reducing our positions and just holding less and less digital assets, but fundamentally the ones that are solving something tangible on the real world. That's why perhaps if you asked me on October 2024, perhaps I held 20 or 22 coins, something like that. My positions now, I barely hold 8 digital assets on this moment. So it's really sticking to the fundamentals. That's also decreasing the risks that I have to be overexposed to a market that has no liquidity. So what I have been doing is carefully choosing the ones that are backed by real companies and the projects that I am 100% sure that even if tomorrow there is a 20-30% decrease, we all know that they're going to bounce back hard enough to actually put us in massive profits. And honestly, I don't think that's the case with Bitcoin. We know that it's a highly speculative asset, and we didn't even talk today about the Tether rabbit hole, which is something to pay attention to, because that could be the ultimate time bomb that really makes the things to flip the switch literally when we have a full decouple from utility assets to BTC. Just think, why would XRP still follow Bitcoin if most of the world transactions would be flowing through the XRP ledger? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That will change. And whenever you see someone say in the comments, a clown like Michael Saylor, sorry, I have to use the words as it is. When you see a clown that goes on public and is telling the US Treasury to sell all their gold and go all in on Bitcoin, which is an asset that's created not even 2 decades ago, versus an asset that's time proven like gold, which survived multi generations, you really understand that there is something wrong with what this guy is saying.
Yeah. I mean, he lost $6 billion, I believe, in the dot-com bubble. And he's, they say history repeats itself, but it often rhymes, right? This is another scenario of that. He was telling people to go mortgage their homes with Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin dropped. I mean, I don't even tell my clients to go mortgage a home with XRP. I mean, that's just stupid, right? I would never tell anybody to do that. So that financial advice alone is just, it's crazy. And as far as Tether, my God, man, we've talked about this for years, but Tether's decline is inevitable. And when Brad Garlinghouse says that most cryptos will eventually lose their place, and I believe the same thing too. This is a whole pump and dump. It's very similar to the dot-com bubble. History is again repeating itself. This is the dot-com bubble indeed. And once regulations are in place, just like the dot-com bubble, 90% of them won't exist. Only a few will survive. And that's the same thing with digital assets. About Tether, like the writing has been on the wall for years, that regulatory crackdowns are happening behind closed doors about the institutions that are demanding compliance solutions. I mean, Tether doesn't even comply with MiCA regulations or some of the other frameworks that we talked about. It's going to only accelerate its decline. And the crypto market is maturing, and speculative assets and unregulated assets that cannot scale and have the backing that they claim they do, they're not going to have a place in the new paradigm. I can guarantee that. And that's where the conversation comes in about RLUSD, but we'll save that for another time. You're on mute. I think you're on mute.
Oh yeah, my apologies.
That's why I never turn it off. I don't want to forget.
Yeah, sometimes I forget because if I am typing here on the computer, I don't want the keyboard to make a sound on the mic. Anyways, yeah, someone say he just bought more XRP. I think that's a wise decision. And well, we are hitting 54 minutes, person. I think we could jump on the final thoughts. I don't know what you want to leave us, to leave the audience today. Your final message.
I just want everyone to be vigilant. I think, remember we talked about this Ido off record, and I was saying that there was a video I was about to put out. I wasn't sure to, but the title of it was "Things Are Going to Get Strange in 2025." There's a lot of things happening geopolitically in the economic situation. It's slowing down indeed. It's not getting better. Hate to say that. And that's why we're right now seeing a lot of downturn in the economy. We talked about this in the beginning. There's a lot of things people don't want to acknowledge. They don't want to pay attention to it, especially people on not in the XRP community, in my opinion, sadly. These are people who've turned their back on us because they think we're doom and gloom. We're just being realistic, and yet we're proven correct every time. And we're not like making this stuff up. I mean, you go do your research, it's out there, the information. It's just people are choosing to fit the narratives, the truth that they want to hear, right? And that's kind of a psychological problem there. But people need to understand you do want to have some cash on hand, despite the fact that it's not working for you. There will be bank runs. There are going to be more bank consolidations. That fits into the paradigm as far as consolidation of the banking system before bringing regulations in to allow this technology to come into fruition. There's a way that this is happening, this transition. It's very slow and gradual. I think we figured that out like a few years ago. But people need to be mindful. I had some clients the other day, their parents were telling them to go buy a house, get a mortgage. I mean, that's some stupid advice. Why would you tell people to do that? People are getting priced out of their homes and being forced to sell their assets where billionaires are going to buy it at a discount. Why do you think Elon Musk and JP Morgan and Bank of America CEO, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, all these people, not Charlie Munger, I think he's dead, but all these people have been pulling their money out and selling positions in stocks, exiting liquidity like we talked about earlier because lending is tight. That's a credit crunch. That's what they're doing. They're pulling money out of the system and they're putting it into hard assets and they're putting it on standby, which my brother and I have been doing for a while. We talked about this, Edo. I'm pulling a lot of cash and building a big cash position because I don't trust the banks. I know it's not working for me, but there's going to be a moment when everything corrects. And I don't know if we're going to see it this time or maybe after the M2 money supply gets into the economy, right? But you want to be positioned as a good investor for any possible outcome, right? Physical assets, they do have their value there. It's about preservation of wealth. Okay, it's very important to understand the difference about selling gold at a higher price and preserving the wealth that you've slaved so hard for to preserve what you're doing, because that's what the 1%ers are doing. So just pay attention, be realistic about the situation. And by the way, those who believe that golden age is coming in with Trump and the whole Q movement, I don't disagree that certain things are going to play out in that way, but I can promise you there's going to be a lot of pain and suffering that comes associated with change, because the reality of this change is restructuring the risk of the debt-based system. And that's no easy task. That's a reset of the global monetary system. It's going to hurt a lot of people who are not ready. And every crisis presents an opportunity, not just for the 1%, but for people like us as well. And I do believe winners and losers are going to come out of this, like every other cycle. So thank you all for your support. That's really what I have to say. And please put the word out there. There's a lot of bullshit out there and people not knowing what they're talking about, and it's all interconnected together.
Me, I want to share one experience which I had. I was in Cyprus and there was a huge banking crisis in 2014. I think, not sure if you guys know the history, but I spoke to some people who actually lived through that crisis, and they literally told me something that got stuck in my mind. They told me that in March or February 2013, one day they were celebrating the carnival outside. Everyone was happy. And in the next day, the banks simply shut down. So they couldn't withdraw any cash. And they told me the only reason why there wasn't such a terrible crisis in the sense of people to attack each other or violence to take place is because in Cyprus, people had, the family unity was very strong. So the community, the sense of community was very alive and people helped each other. And that's how they held on the crisis. And that's a message for us to remind how quickly things can change. I think for me, that was a big lesson, and how important is to live in a place where family unit is still strong, because I think most societies right now, there is a lack of morality, moral values, and it wouldn't take much for people to start attacking each other. And that's why I think it's extremely important to do things like Versan, that is accumulating, even drinking water, precious metals, having a cash reserve in your house. I think that's also very important, to not be fully dependent on the banks. I think before things get better, there will be pain, and that's how the system is going to change. They need pain to change the system, and that's how we're going to be leading towards CBDCs. But in the same way, I think we had huge opportunities with digital assets, and well, we already have proven that it was a great occasion. For example, to buy XRP, we had 600% increase in a couple of months, and I think that's just the beginning for what's coming for XRP. From me, that's everything today. I want to say a special thanks for the audience. Unfortunately, I couldn't stream these 2 weeks today, but I hope the conversation was useful for the ones here on YouTube. And yeah, we're gonna see you guys next Monday. I'm very exciting for what's to come in the next months.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get through this, all of us together, this community. I mean, we just have to stick to the facts and stick to what you know best. I do think VLO, SHX, XRP, XLM, some of these technologies we've been talking about for a while, they are going to have their use case. So yes, if you have enough money right now outside of the banks and some that you're ready to invest, this is an opportunity to buy. It's a dip, but you never know. We might see lower prices. That's all I'm saying. But overall, I mean, compliance is going to be everything, and that is coming too. Whether it takes a crisis to get us there, that's a whole different story. Just be ready. That's all. Okay. Good things are.
Remember, focus on the utility assets, and you can sleep very well at night, knowing that even if the prices drop, it's 100% sure that we're going to see higher levels for the XRPs, the XLMs. Now, if you're going fully invested on Ethereum, Bitcoin, well, I wouldn't sleep so well at night, honestly. So that's my message for today. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully, perhaps next week I can also talk more about the solutions I'm finding to catch out crypto without any taxes. I think that's also very relevant, considering that most countries have very high taxations, and for me that's theft. I don't really like to give the government any free money, so I can share more about my experience. So anyways, thank you, everyone. And yeah, Versan, please go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I'm so sorry that like taxes, you know, I wouldn't mind paying taxes, even though it's unconstitutional and involuntary. You know, it is voluntary actually by law, but now they might have changed it. But I wouldn't mind paying taxes if we weren't bombing the shit out of people all over the world and putting it into weapons and manufacturing. Okay. That's something we don't need. I will never support something like that. And for the audience, I don't shop at Target. I don't shop at Walmart. I don't drink Starbucks coffee. I don't support the big businesses because they actually do put that money into bombs. So you may be somebody that says, oh, would you look at that? They're bombing innocent people. That's wrong. And you're holding a Starbucks cup of coffee. You're part of the problem. Okay. Whether you acknowledge it or not. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the money just gets funneled into the military industrial complex. And that's why they created the central bank in 1913. To build the military industrial complex to protect that very corrupt mechanism, which is now falling apart. Anyways, thank you guys. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to see you next Monday.
All right. Bye.